Hello everyone, on today's episode of the Shredding Skeptic, I thought we would take a quick countdown to Vaultday by looking at some of the software available for mobile that pertains to our favorite series, Fallout. So let's take a quick look at the shelter that I built in Fallout Mobile and discuss the new integration of the Fallout Pip-Boy app. So first up is going to be my early experience with the Fallout Shelter app for Android. Now this game I did find to be somewhat frustrating because it always gives you these notifications to constantly drag you back into the game because of a fire or something else, and I found the experience to largely be just collecting coins, building modules, dragging people into the shelter, and to be honest, I didn't really spend a whole lot of time with it, but I thought I would experiment a little bit with the mobile capture software that I just downloaded just to see how well it does in actually bringing the mobile experience to YouTube. So the idea with this game seems to largely be matching the skills of the people that are entering the vault with the particular modules you need to sustain yourself, including electricity, food, and water. You can place 2 people inside one of the habitat shelter modules if you want to increase your population. You can apparently also send your vault dwellers out into the wasteland if you want them to collect some additional items like caps. So once you have a new dweller arrive, as you can see here, the idea is to basically grab them and drag them into one of the modules, which I did find to be a little bit challenging at first. And as you can see from the size of the mountain, you can probably build these vaults pretty large on the inside of this hillside if you want to build a very, very complex structure. If I'm honest, I really just didn't have the patience or the time with this particular game, and I really wanted to save a lot of this experience for once Fallout 4 is released. Now, that being said, I do want to discuss some of the speculative inclusions within Fallout 4's release that are discussed in What Culture by Scott Tailford. I'll leave a link to the article in the description below. Now, the article is a few months old. It was released back in September. So one of the things that I want to talk about are, first of all, how much of the prediction is going to be correct once we get the game released, and what it is that's being speculated right now. First up is going to be the amount of dialogue that's going to be included in this game that's apparently going to be dwarfing all other Bethesda games that came before it. We're talking about 111,000 lines of dialogue, and one of those things that I find that's so immersive in the game is when there actually is that inclusion of your own character being able to have a conversation with someone else. It's like the difference between the original Grand Theft Auto 3 and then what we see now in some of the newer ones where your character can't actually speak. The author also mentions that the kills granted by your companions are still going to give you XP. Now, from what I remember, this has never really not been the case. I mean, that would be kind of a pain in the ass if all the XP that you could be collecting in the wasteland was being stolen by your NPC companion. All of the perks are going to have their own skill trees, and they're going to be able to be leveled up individually. Now, this is going to be a very interesting addition for all of you RPG fans out there, myself included, and we're going to see later in the Fallout companion app how exactly that gets included in the game. Ranged weapons are also going to have a crazy amount of upgrades that you're going to be able to include, and now they're going to be including things like bayonets to increase melee damage. The next thing that's mentioned here by the author is the possible inclusion of over 400 hours of gameplay. Now, that sounds like an incredible value per hour if this game only costs $80. But again, how much time can you guys really see yourself putting into this game? I mean, for me, yeah, I could probably put a few hundred hours into it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Is 400 hours about a reasonable estimate? The removal of the level cap will be a welcome addition for me. I definitely remember finishing Fallout 3 and being extremely upset that I couldn't just continue the game, as I did leave a number of things unfinished. This was of course fixed later with different patches that would allow you to continue that level up process, but I figured that is now something that should come standard with most of these games. If they are open world, they should let you just get through the main quest and get on with plundering the wasteland. The use of a new gaming engine is apparently going to be reducing the amount of bugs and glitches to next to zero, which would be nice because I, like many people, are getting very sick of these games getting released in such a broken state. Stealth is apparently making a comeback in Fallout 4, and I do remember its somewhat clunky addition in some of the previous titles, where the idea was you would crouch, and then people can either see you or they can't. So I'm hoping they're going to get a little bit more creative with this, and make it a much more viable playstyle, as the author claims. The article now goes on to claim that sprinting will finally be a thing, and I do recall in some of the previous Bethesda titles, if you wanted to move quickly, well, it would largely depend on having your weapon holstered and your endurance stats souped up a little bit. So if this is now a dedicated play mechanic, it would definitely be a welcome addition. Although the environmental storytelling I've always found to be very, very solid in the previous Fallout titles, from things like broken billboards, homes littered with all sorts of personal items, as well as the adaptation of a lot of the broken items, including the sign in Novak back in Fallout Vegas that was actually just an adaptation of a no vacancy sign with some of the bulbs burnt out. I thought things like that were really incredible in those games, and with this new gaming engine, this is apparently going to be able to be taken to the next level, so I'm really excited to see how these environments tell a story. The Vaultday assisted targeting system is apparently getting a large workover for Fallout 4, and there are going to be some welcome, or maybe some not so welcome additions, depending on how you want to look at it. First of all, it's not going to fully freeze time like it was before, perhaps unless you can level it up to that particular stage, but the idea is it's going to put a little bit more pressure on you to get things done quickly, as well as your critical hits are going to be governed by the luck stat, which is going to be making things a little bit more predictable, as it's now a bar that will fill and can be triggered directly by the player. So a lot of people are welcoming this idea of having a real solid critical hit in your back pocket when things get really dicey. It appears there may be some light inclusion of vehicles in Fallout 4. From what we can see in the trailers, it seems to be limited, at least right now, to the gunships that are flying around, and we're not really sure if it's going to be, you could just ride them to go from point A to point B, or if you can take control of them fully. But, with this season pass that they're also selling for $40, I'm hoping in that vehicles may be included down the road. As I said in the Mad Max video yesterday, I thought it would be really cool if they could incorporate vehicles as just a faster way of getting around the wasteland. And with new weapons and a base building system being incorporated, I am very excited to see how this turns out. So what I want to show you guys now is this new Pip-Boy Android app that's been released. So the idea here is that you connect it directly to the game and you're able to have your Pip-Boy mounted externally to your computer. So in my case, what I'm doing is just using my old phone on a GPS mount mounted to my desk so that I can just sort of have a Pip-Boy external to the PC. I also use that for my racing telemetry for Project Cars, so I'm really glad to see a lot of these games incorporating the second screen experience. So as you can see, you can check out all the different stats you have already, and they come with these neat little animations here. And as you can see, the perks have these different ranks that are associated with them. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at pickpocketing here, and as you rank it up, you're able to do extra things like, putting a live grenade in people's pocket, or even stealing equipped weapons. As I said in the previous video, I was really hoping to see that this app will be able to be used on multiple devices, because I do happen to have a couple of older Android devices kicking around, and I would love to incorporate them into a 6-screen setup where I can have 3 different Pip-Boys set up at once to match the 3 different screens. So as you can see, your inventory is also fully accessible, and if you wanted to apply some first aid items or switch an ammo type, I'm sure that's exactly what the developers had in mind when they put this thing together. So with the thousands of different weapon combinations that are going to be possible, along with all the different base building elements, I'm really glad to see that there is something that's going to be a little bit outside of the game to take away some of that menu frustration that a lot of people have expressed with previous Fallout titles. If you were big into the modding scene, you'll be glad to know that Fallout is now introducing an auto-save feature just in case a mod really decides to break things for you, and you can actually revert back to your last proper save. As you can see on the Pip-Boy screen here, there is now a map which will give you a little bit of an idea of what this map might actually be looking like for Fallout. So it looks like they're going to be incorporating a lot of different maybe swampy areas, water areas, and a giant river that seems to be running right through the middle of the map. And all those little intersections and possible towns are really just getting me excited to get exploring into this game, and we only got a few more days before this thing is going to be released. So I did fortunately get my preload done last night, so the hard drive is ready to go whenever Steam gives it the old thumbs up, And, oh, by the way, there's also Atomic Command, which is something that might help tie you guys over if you're interested in a little bit of old school gaming on your Android, or, you know, if you happen to get that limited edition release, you can play this directly on your wrist as part of the Pip-Boy experience. So thanks again for tuning into this particular episode of the Shredding Skeptic, and I hope you guys are also making good use of your time until Vaultday, and we're going to get up on a live stream hopefully as soon as we get Fallout 4 released, and we'll see you guys then. Thanks again.